We're in Tijuana, Mexico. We just got done finishing. We finished recording season 2 of the podcast. Me and Navi are discussing what options we have and what things we're going to do for this next season. We're changing things up a bit. We started this podcast without really a clear direction of where we wanted to take it, but we did have some things we wanted to do with it. Number one is basically create a platform for people to have an open conversation about their life experiences. Most of the people that have been on this podcast have been people that I've learned from directly, people that I've been inspired by, people that have shared their life experiences and knowledge with me. Some of the people that formed me and made me who I am. People like Lieutenant Colonel Lezaola, who was not only in charge of my training, but later on led me through some of the most formative years of my life. Fighting in this raging drug war that's still going on to this day. Nessio showing up after a bare knuckle boxing event like a few days after that fight, and with his eyes still shut from those punches, having a conversation with us about his life and some of the life experiences that led to him becoming that. The show is very much a project that I have always wanted to put forth. It's something that a lot of you guys wanted, and I think it was a natural choice for me to kind of step into the role of the interviewer. I've taken a lot of my experiences as an interrogator when I worked for the police and talking to people of that nature into some of the work that I do now, interviewing people. It is an interesting job that I've made for myself now with this project. I've never done something specifically like this, and the ability now to bring light and attention to some of these stories of people that are out there doing ungodly acts of just life-changing work on themselves and turning themselves into the best versions that they possibly can after debilitating and traumatizing just pain and suffering. I think some of these stories are very much needed now. There's a tendency now to be nihilistic and everything's going to end in doom and gloom. I try to end each of these episodes with some hope and some lessons learned. And specifically, I try and bring in people that have rebirth and transformation in their backgrounds, second chances. My first podcast guest was somebody that I basically went after, a former enemy, Conejo, and I think that was a perfect choice. We're friends now, and when I chose to do this, he was the first one to sign up for a conversation with me, so I'm pretty glad about that. As we end these 2 seasons and look back upon it, we have some pretty memorable moments we want to talk to you guys about. Me and Javi are kind of discussing which of these moments we're going to talk about deeply. Some stuff that happened behind the scenes that you didn't get to see, but it was pretty impactful. Some of the conversations that were had offline, and specifically where some of these conversations has taken us and some of the connections that we made with it. A big part of the show happens before and after, going to get tacos, going and visiting some of the local sites in Tijuana, and just walking around and speaking about life in general with some of these souls that I encounter only for a few hours. And I share those conversations with you guys, and then we're off to our own separate adventures again. There's some pretty cool stories that happen behind the scenes, and we're here to share some of those with you.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. So, of all the podcasts we had, what has been the most difficult one?
The most difficult podcast we've filmed?
Yeah.
The Lezaola podcast was the most hard to pull off. People don't realize that when we were filming that conversation with the former Lieutenant Colonel Lezaola, who was basically my former boss and legendary lawman. He had a warrant out for his arrest while we were filming this conversation. So we had to basically do a lot of counterintelligence, plan for filming that wasn't going to happen, and just monitor things. It was pretty hard and difficult to have that happen. And also, mind you, this is a person who was my boss in a paramilitary group setting. We weren't friends. We weren't personal. He was my boss, and he'd order me around.
Yeah, you were really nervous.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, seeing this guy in front of me in this personal setting, I remember telling you, "Hey, Avi, that's the first time he's ever shaken my hand. Yeah. I've known this person for all these years." It was kind of surreal. It was definitely one of my most surreal life moments, going from somebody that was trained under him and worked with him to now being in a weird studio, having this weird conversation with him in front of in front of all you guys, watching these things, these conversations. It was pretty surreal. I think that was hard for me. A lot of memories popped up, a lot of names came up, a lot of events that I went through, and a lot of the PTSD that came in with some of those things kind of popped to the surface a little bit. But it was pretty cool. Remember what he took from the studio?
Yeah. Gave him.
I didn't give him anything.
He decided to take it. He thought it was free.
I guess he thought it was a gift. When we do these, when we film these episodes at Suavecito, we take a picture with these Aztec war gloves that I got, right? And one of them was a highly ornate birthday gift that I got given to me. And I said, well, I'm going to bring this one for my boss to hold for the picture. He held it. And went, oh, this is amazing, Ed. Held it for the picture, put it in his chair,
and drove off to something.
And off he went. I didn't have the balls to say give it back. I told it it's yours, I guess. That was a pretty hard conversation to have, I think.
So going back, do you remember when Nessio showed up?
Yeah, Nessio. So Nessio is a bare knuckle boxer. I first learned of Nessio on a random intranet, scrolling thing I was doing at night. I saw this dude hitting this heavy bag outside his backyard. He's having a hard time with it. Look amateurish, but it was like a segmented video. That was the start of his training. So this guy basically trained himself up to be this bare knuckle boxer. So he posted this video of his progression of his training, from punching a water bag in his backyard to just flowing like this fucking butterfly and delivering these blows that just rocked the skeletal structure of these people that were in front of him. I had to have him on. So I made the invitation to have him on. Nessio shows up right after a fight. Yeah, I think he fought in Florida or some shit like that, remember? He shows up and I'm reaching over to shake his hand. What people don't know about bare knuckle boxers is they break their hands each and every single fight that they have. He just came into this room with both of his hands broken and his eyes shut and laughing and smiling and with all of the fucking energy in the world. That's Nessio. He showed up with his dad. It was pretty inspiring seeing somebody with his father like that supported something that damaged his body that much. I mean, I get it. I was in a job where I was damaging my body a lot and putting myself at risk, and my parents were definitely not happy about it, but at least I got some support about it. I think that was pretty inspirational seeing him. And some of the stories he told us about his struggles with suicide and addiction and just basically getting his life back together. I think he's on his way to fight again right now, and I told him, dude, next time you fight, come see us again after it. I want to have a conversation with you again.
We have this small segment on Patreon called One Thing. Of course, people on YouTube don't have they can't watch it. They can if they're on Patreon. So, what's the most memorable thing you remember about the One Things?
So One Thing is something we added for our Patreon subscribers only. They only get access. And if you guys want to be on there, you keep the lights on. This is like we're running all of this through Patreon. One Thing is basically one object, one thing that guests bring with them that has a story to it. An EDC knife, a token, a coin, a tattoo. We've had all sorts of weird things being brought to this One Thing segment we have for our Patreon members. Jeanette, I think, has brought in the most memorable object out of all of them. Like, I remember we were floored when we got to see her object. Jeanette, she's behind Demolaire. We had her on for an episode, and she brought a watch with her. This dead watch, and we couldn't figure out what the story was. So we never do. We never ask what the story is. The reactions are live, basically. So she puts this watch on the table, and she shares a story with it. She was kayaking, or she was rafting. Yeah. She was rafting somewhere in North Africa, which makes sense for Jeanette, who's a adventurous soul. She apparently fell in the water and drowned for a bit. And when she lost consciousness in the water, her watch stopped. And she basically drowned for a bit. She was pulled out and somebody brought her back. But that watch stopped at the moment she stopped breathing. So, I don't know, it's a weird object to bring with you, a reminder of how fragile life is and how second chances are everything. You know, I think she had one of those second chances, and she does some amazing work doing some of this reporting for on cartel issues here on our channel. Me and Jeanette from Demolaire regularly break down some of the latest cartel news coming out of Mexico every few months. She's been one of our more valuable assets when it comes to doing what we do.
So we had Hector Bravo recently, and shared with us a story that has had a lot of attention recently.
So Hector Bravo used to work for the prison system in California. A lot of the people that I would arrest in Baja would end up in his facility when we would extradite them. He basically mentioned this is the last show we debuted. He mentioned something, basically how it works if you're in the California prison system, and you're in the male population, and how you can basically ask to get gender reassignment surgery, and how that's covered through the tax-paying, health system that's inside of these prison systems. Basically, how we pay for it, and just how that's been received inside of the prison. It hasn't gone that well, I guess, and I don't know. That was pretty interesting to hear, and also interesting that not a lot of people are talking about it. Or not a lot of people have heard about that specific thing. We've been hearing it's been going around, and we've been hearing a lot about that conversation specifically. So that was an interesting one to have.
Yeah, very interesting.
Eddie Farrell, legendary TIE fighter. Man, this guy. Like, if you haven't seen him fight, just go on YouTube, look up Eddie Farrell, see his fights. The guy's amazing. He showed up along with one of his fellow friends and fighters. Eddie's tall as shit, and Eddie's the nicest dude you will ever fucking meet, but he looks like he could probably kill you.
Yeah.
They basically just walked through some of the gnarliest parts of DJ and showed up to the door, Nice dude, nicest guys in the world. Amazing story. He basically abandoned his home country And this is something I love about him. I got this part of his story. Him and his wife left to Thailand to learn how to fight Thai boxing professionally, which they achieved. They brought their dogs with them, but on their way back to Australia, their dogs they didn't want to let their dogs in because of sanitary reasons. So Eddie told him to go fuck off, and he came to Mexico and he started this fucking amazing gym out here. He's about to move his gym to a place I think called Puerto Escondido.
Yeah.
I'm gonna basically go out there. And next year is gonna be about me going off and training in weird places. We're gonna do a lot of that, and I think one of the first places I'm gonna try and hit up is Eddie's new spot down there. See if I can get my Thai back. Not a lot of people know this. I did some Thai boxing when I was still active for a few years. I haven't been kicked in the face for a while, and I think that's probably time. But yeah, Eddie's episode was pretty memorable. Interesting story, and it led to us developing a relationship with not only Eddie and his family, but also his extended family, his gym. His gym out in Tulum. We're about to come out with a small documentary produced by us about that gym and his project here in Mexico. And that conversation also led to us starting our collaborative charity with them called Fighter's Kitchen. Eddie not only runs a gym that draws people from all over the world to train there in a live-in Thai style gym in Mexico, but also he's been training some of the local talent and some of the people training locally, they don't have enough. And we're trying to give them enough so they can continue on their process of becoming just kick-ass fighters. I know Eddie has his heart behind this project, and I recognize that, so I toss my hat behind him. It's one of those conversations that has led to a lot that has happened on that podcast. It's changed a lot of lives.
So Micah,
yeah,
remember?
Yeah,
Heroes for Horses.
Micah from Heroes for Horses, who I still have to get out there. We have to.
Yeah, we have to go.
We have to go out there and see his work. He runs a charity. Basically, he takes some U.S. military veterans into this program where it's 40 days, I think.
I think it's 30 or 40 days.
It's a 30 to 40 days live-in program where he basically uses horses as tools to bring people back from war. I mean, I'm not talking about like coming back from a war. I mean like mentally grounding ourselves and coming back from that lifestyle. It was pretty amazing not only to hear somebody of his category. I mean, the guy is a very accomplished member of a very special elite unit that he did not talk about. No. Because that was realistically the least interesting thing about him. Yeah. I think the most interesting about him is that he took the opportunity to come back from that conflict that he was a part of, and he developed this self-knowledge, and he basically figured out a way back for himself, and now he's trying to share that with people. I thought that was fascinating, very powerful, very powerful. He was also one of the only guests that got a different weapon at the during the final picture that we take at the Suavecito sign. He got a tomahawk instead of the Aztec sword. I thought it was fitting to give him an axe instead of the Aztec sword. It's an amazing conversation. Definitely somebody I want to follow up with, to do like a follow-up show, and he's definitely somebody that we can basically go out and film with. I might go through the program myself. I don't know.
That'd be great.
It's definitely something that I would want to do at some point next year. It's definitely in the cards.
Let's go back way to the beginning.
Shit.
The first podcast.
The first episode.
The first episode.
First episode, we were nervous as shit. We were trying to set everything up really. So for people that don't know this, that only know us for the podcast. I travel across the country and teach people how to get out of handcuffs, restraints, how to arm themselves in bad places. I do classes for the military, for the police, related to the unconventional side of combatives. So basically around doing a lot of shit constantly. This whole conversation and podcast was like a side gig. It started off that way almost 2 years ago now, but it's slowly but surely becoming like a main front and center for us as far as like what we're doing. When I decided to do this, and I asked you, Avi, to basically help me out with it, because this is a vision that we both of us have had for a while. Like I was trying to figure out who would be my first guest, you know, and I just finished having a conversation with a Conejo. Conejo was somebody that I met when I was still active. Basically, my original group that I work with, my operations group that I work with, participated in his arrest. He was arrested on murder charges in Mexico and extradited to the United States, and I got to be there for that. Met him later on through a mutual friend. My friend, director David Ayer, who knows him since he was a kid. So it was a weird connection. We became friends after that meeting, after some tense moments of trying to figure out who we were back then and who we are now. But like I asked him to come on, and we had this wild conversation about just seeing where we were in that time, you know, where I was and where he was, and how we were basically gunning for each other in a lot of ways. And now we're having a conversation. Meanwhile, outside, our daughters are playing together.
Yeah.
My kid showed up and his kid showed up, and they were like talking and playing together. Some dudes were doing karate outside. It was wild. It was
strange.
It was a surreal work. It was a surreal first episode, but that was the start. I knew it was going to be a weird podcast after that first episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's been about 2 years that we started this project, and we've had some amazing people on. Lisa out of Denver, Colorado, my sister, somebody who basically led me through my internal healing process, I guess is what we could call it. She basically does therapy on me live in that conversation. Yusuf Badeau, who was a former instructor for the Hunter program in the Marine Corps, who showed us how to orientate ourselves as far as how to look for threats and environments and how to keep ourselves safe. We've had so many people on. All of them are amazing, and it's just hard to mention all of them. Josh Burnett, one of the legendary Josh Burnett, showing up, one of the youngest UFC champions, and also just an amazing dude, a philosopher, a warrior, a man among men. Going and basically having moments with these people, not only in front of the cameras, but also, you know, behind the cameras, and taking them to get tacos and having moments of, you know, of almost family time with some of these people. I think with each of the people that have come on, which we always tell them, we are only here because of them and because of the people on Patreon and you guys watching on YouTube. But each of them, when they come, they become a part of this weird collection of people that all share this common link of coming to a single point in space in the middle of Tijuana to talk to a weirdo about life. And it's always a trip. It's always a trip, and I value each and every one of them for not only investing their time in us, but also being open and willing to share some of the things that they went through, and some of the things that they learned from these experiences. Yeah. You know, my background is a very complex one. A few years back, I was working on the very same streets that I now walk as a civilian when I'm down here filming some of these podcast episodes. There's definitely a surrealness to what I'm doing now, but I think it's making a difference. The amount of correspondence, messages, and just pure love that we get from you guys. Each and every episode that drops, every single one of them resonates with somebody out there in some way, shape, or form, and we appreciate the hell out of that. We always ask and beg our followers and supporters to leave us a like and a review. But we're not too pushy about it. We do things kind of organically here, and if you noticed, we're very, very straightforward in our messaging. We just want to have people on that are willing and capable, and are willing and capable of showing how they got there. And also that second chances and after parties are where it's all at. We were homeless basically when we started. We were trying to figure out where to film out of. I live on the road. I know I say that a lot, but people don't understand that I literally live out of my backpack and a suitcase most parts of the year, so I don't have a specific place where we can film out of regularly. So we're looking desperately for a place.
Yeah, it's really hard. Really hard.
So we found a few options in San Diego and a few others in Texas. But realistically, we wanted to keep things kind of like interesting and unique. We wanted to make the place where we did the podcast part of the podcast. So I was very adamant to have it in TJ. I mean, if you're not willing to go to TJ to film this conversation, who are you?
Yeah.
And also, man, it's my hometown. I want to have excuses to come back to it so I can visit family. We were trying to figure out somebody to host us, sponsor us, something. Nobody did. And then we were contacted by the people of Suavecito. Suavecito is one of the best hair product companies in the world. And makeup company. And they make a bunch of stuff, and they're just great human beings. They reached out and offered studio space for us to film the podcast out of, which was everything. And we can't say enough good things about them and how much they have supported this project. Suavecito's corporate offices are in the middle of Zona Norte in downtown Tijuana.
Yeah.
Perfect spot, right nearby the border. People can cross in and out. We will have the conversation, and sometimes we'll go out and take them to some cool tacos in the area. It's a beautiful space, definitely an amazing store. It's also a store. People can visit that store. It's not just a corporate office. It's also their public storefront. So if you guys are interested and you're in the Tijuana area and you want to buy some cool ass, some amazing products from Suavecito, you can go straight there and actually shop there. Maybe you'll run into me while I'm filming an episode there. It has been amazing and such a valuable resource for us to be able to film out of that space. And we can't thank the people from Suavecito enough. It's everything. Thank you guys. Another big aspect of support for the podcast is Sneak Reaper Industries. Sneak Reaper Industries is a project that started off by me basically showcasing some of the lessons I learned from smugglers. Basically, I went up against some of the best smugglers on the planet in Tijuana, and I learned how they modified clothing to hide things on their person. And I learned how to wear and modify some of those same clothing some of those same hides on myself when I was active, to hide things that I could use in an emergency, like money, handcuff keys, and things of this nature. The brand has taken a life of its own. We've had celebrities like John Mayer wear it on stage. We've had Japanese runway models wear some of our T-shirts for some of their catalog lineups. We've had our stuff show up in battlefields in Israel, Ukraine, you name it. It's been around. It's a brand that's very much about dangerous freedom. Very much inspired to create this brand through some of the skateboarding brands that I grew up with, and it's very much in the culture and the style of some of these brands that I grew up with. There's some amazing things ahead for that for us at Sneaker Industries. More knife designs coming through the pipeline. We are definitely expanding some of our product offerings, and we have some pretty amazing collaborations in the pipeworks for you guys that I think you're gonna love. And we're all about the random weirdness as well. So I hope you enjoy it. On our trading side and some of the public events that I'm going to be doing across the country for next year, we're going to be focusing more on content creation for next year as far as the company goes. But we are going to be still going out and doing in-person classes, specifically weaponology, counter custody, and some of the collaborative classes I've had with people like Matt Fiddler, where we go into covert entry and how to bypass commercially available locks, to classes with people like Raul Martinez, who was also a guest on the podcast, where we go and delve into into aspects of violence, both gun, blade, and just generalized forms of violence, and what we can learn from it. Me and him basically have this open conversation with a classroom there, and we go back and forth as far as some of the materials that we teach. Pretty amazing stuff. We're going to be doing a lot of that next year as well. We're going to be focused, most of our class calendar is already posted on our website, www.etsmanifesto.com. If you can, check out our calendar there. We have a Zoom class coming up. I used to do a class called Urban Movement and Disruption. A very popular class. You can ask some of the prior alumni what that class was about. It's basically a social engineering and urban exploitation class. I've turned it into a Zoom class, and it's going to be debuting next year. All the information is going to be on our website if you want to log on there and get information for that, man. I would be excited to see you out there if you can't travel out for one of these classes. That's an option for you guys. And also, on our Patreon. Patreon is how we keep the lights on, and if you can and would do us that favor, support us there. We offer exclusive drops of merch from Sneak Reaper Industries and some of the people that we collaborate with through that Patreon account, through one of our tiers. We also offer exclusive news and the services from Demolaire through that Patreon account. We also offer most of our online training materials, courses, online classes, pre-recorded classes, materials, and just regular training series that I've been constantly and regularly posting about on the Patreon. All of that is going to be available for you guys, and all that supports us and keeps us able to be doing what we're doing and bringing you some of these conversations, stories, and lessons from the road. We are incredibly grateful for all of your support, and with that, I want to say thank you, goodbye, and Merry Christmas. I'll see you next year.